All right, how's it going? Today I'm setting up a vivarium for my two dart frogs. They need a bigger home, and the one I've got here is a slightly bigger version of the one I have. That bottom 5 inches is fully waterproof. I'm hoping to do some kind of water feature for them this time around. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and put this on its back, and I'm going to attach some corkboard material that looks like the bark of a tree. It's from Josh's Frogs, and I'm just gonna silicone some pieces that I have from the last build I did. I had way too much and had lots of extra scrap, so I'm just gonna go ahead and assemble this in pieces like a jigsaw. It took me a while to find the right shapes and positions for everything, and once I kind of figured it out, went ahead and put a few beads of silicone on there and put it in place. Silicone's probably not the easiest thing I could have used, but it is what I had in the garage. I know that expanding foam is popular as well and less messy, but it's what I had on me, so that's what I'm using. I love these guys here. These are also from Josh's Frogs, and they're look like mushroom caps, and you can kind of glue them to the side of the glass for platforms for the frogs, or you can just attach it to the background like I'm doing here. My frogs have one in my tank now, and they absolutely love it. It also provides a little bit of dry area for the spot underneath it, so my mister won't get everything wet. It's really important for dart frogs to have area that's dry. So I'm breaking apart some of this scrap material I've got to plug some of the holes. If I had used a solid piece, it would have been a lot easier, but since I only have the scrap, I'm filling the holes with silicone and plugging them with the pieces I've got. I really don't want any holes or areas where the frogs get stuck or hide. Saw this trick from Serpa Design on YouTube. Kind of covered the exposed wet silicone or glue, whatever you're using, with some dirt and just kind of blend it in with the background. Once this all dries, I'll rinse it out. And I'm just grabbing whatever I've got in the garage to kind of weigh it down overnight. I'm gonna let this sit for about 24 hours, and then I will start on the more fun part with the soil, dirt, and possibly a water feature. I'm trying to figure that out. Well, it's been 24 hours, and I put my kids to work rinsing out all the loose dirt and debris that built up during the build yesterday. Got everything rinsed out and let it dry. I think it looks pretty good, considering I had to build everything from the scraps. I particularly like the way the mushrooms look. It looks like just the base of a rainforest tree. Over here on the right, you can see my original tank. It's much too small. So I've placed a little pump here in the corner. I'm kind of working on the fly here, but I'm trying to figure out how I can incorporate a water feature. So currently the plan is to create a drainage layer on the bottom of the tank with leca balls. These are just little clay balls that are great for drainage layers. I quickly realized I did not have enough, and I had to make an emergency Home Depot run, and they were out, so I decided that lava rock would do. I prefer the leca balls because they're smaller and they're all the same size, but at the end of the day, I'm just looking for something that can separate the water layer from the dirt layer. So I've built this up here, and I'm gonna cover it with a square piece of mesh that I've measured out based on the top of the lid, and made a cutout for where my water is going to collect and the hose that I've pre-plumbed. Just setting some lava rock here so I can weigh this down so I can place dirt on top of it. The wire mesh will keep the soil from actually falling down into the water column. So one important piece of any kind of vivarium is using activated charcoal or carbon. It will clean the water as it passes through the soil and then get recycled through the pump. So now that I've got my carbon layer down, I've got a mix of coconut fiber substrate and some tropical potting soil that I've put together. Both of these were bought at Home Depot. I'm just going to spread it across here. And I'll tell you one thing that I wish I had done now that this build is over is make this another inch or two higher. Since I have several inches of water below it, a lot of the moisture is being sucked up into the soil, which is great, but I don't want the soil to be constantly wet. So this is my old soil from the other vivarium, and I want to make sure I incorporate as much of this as I can. You'll see that I have lots of isopods. These are my moo cow isopods. I forgot what they're called, but I'm making sure I put all of this in here because it's got lots of microorganisms and little critters that are going to be my janitors for the tank. This soil has dozens of these large isopods along with thousands of springtails. Now, these are all the plants that were in the vivarium beforehand. They were completely overgrowing the tank. So I'm just burying these here in the soil, and I should have known at this point that I didn't put quite enough in. I could tell that as I was burying it, I could feel a little bit of the mesh. So in the future, I will be adding a little bit more soil to elevate it. There's plenty of height in this tank. I wish I knew the name of these plants. If I can find them, I'll put it in the description. They were all bought from Josh's Frogs. They have a section that will show you which plants can go with dart frogs safely. So down in the lower right here, I'm trying to create a little wall for the water feature that I'm incorporating. This stone is called Dragonstone, and I found it at my local fish store, and I thought it looked awesome. I've used it previously in freshwater tank builds and didn't want to get rid of it when I shut those down. I'm using them to kind of create a barrier so that way soil runoff won't necessarily pour into this little corner for water. So the idea is the first 3 inches of the tank will be submersed, which will be fully in the drainage area and not on the soil directly. So I've got this tube in the top left corner here. I'm going to try to find a way to run this down into the little stone pebble corner I've got here and have a little wading pool that will cycle up and then back down. Just fill the gaps here with little stone pebbles. And now I'm pulling out the leaf litter that was in my old tank and adding some new capata leaves. Leaf litter is very important for a vivarium. You want a place for critters to hide, for leaves to deteriorate and go back to the soil. I will often find my isopods eating the leaves or hiding underneath them. I have the most of these little orange guys. I don't think I fully realized how many I had till I started moving the soil over from the old vivarium. They clearly have been reproducing, which is great. So as I sort through the soil, I'm just making sure that I got as many as I can find. So I found these online and thought this would be a great way to hide tubing for a water feature. So I saved on these for months, and I'm going to go ahead and stack a few of these up and hide the tube and see if I can't wire it down to the right-hand corner for the water. In the future, I was thinking about poking some pinhole size holes in the tube so that way water could slowly trickle down the wood here and allow ivy or moss to grow. So here it is, it's fully done for the most part. That's where the water will go. I don't totally love how you can see the mesh there, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to fix that. But I've got plenty of leaf litter. The plants are where I want them. So I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and move it to my office and then fill up the corner with water and see if this thing leaks or not. And there it is. Completely done. No leaks. Got the water running. I brought this over from my original vivarium. It was the dartfrog's little house. I love how the mushroom caps turned out. They look completely natural. The frogs love chilling on them. I don't like this left corner though. It's very cluttered and the way I brought the water down isn't necessarily ideal, but this will always be a work in progress. And here's the star of the shows. These are my poison dart frogs. If you look closely, their bellies are actually a really dark blue, not quite black. They've been in this temporary home for a few hours. Wanted to make sure I got them back in here as soon as possible. So if you don't know, poison dart frogs aren't actually poisonous, kept in captivity. In the wild, they eat something in the rainforest that makes their sweat glands produce a poison of some kind. So I can touch them, but I try not to, so I just gave them a little bump there so they'd hop in. One of my favorite parts is definitely just watching these guys explore the tank. It's great to see them seeing it for the first time and just bumping into each other here, giving themselves a stare down. So I installed a misting system from the previous vivarium, and it's super easy to use. It's app controlled. I can set it up on a schedule or manually start it through the phone or just physically on the box itself. And the frogs absolutely love when this thing turns on. They always run out for a drink and come out of hiding. So the last thing to add to the tank would be the springtails. These guys are very important to a bioactive area like this and help break down waste. And they're also snacks for the frogs themselves. They'll gobble these guys up. To get them out, I usually just pour a little bit of water in here and they float to the top and just spread it around the soil here. They breed pretty quickly, so this should be good to set up the tank. And I'm sure it's been a stressful day for the frogs, so I've got some dinner ready for them. These are my flightless fruit fly cultures. Definitely one of the more nasty parts of this hobby, but it's pretty easy to breed them. I usually just tap the bottle here and they'll fall to the bottom. Otherwise they'll kind of overload you and start climbing out of the top there. But I sprinkle them into an empty cup where I can then sprinkle a vitamin powder. This gives the frogs the nutrients that they're not getting in captivity. This is what I use. I don't know if there's something better, but this adds calcium to their diet, which is pretty important from what I've read. I just sprinkle these guys with it and shuffle it around, and then feed the frogs. Feeding the frogs is definitely one of the more fun parts of the hobby. They always run out when they hear me tapping the cup, and as soon as I pour them down here, they rush over and start eating. You can see here, they're dusted white with the calcium powder. The flies usually sit there and try to clean themselves, which just makes them even easier to catch, but the frogs themselves really enjoy hunting. If I were to put a dead fly in here, they'd have no interest in it. But it is very fun to watch them stalk their prey and shoot those tongues out. That's pretty much it though. This is my first YouTube video, so I'd love to hear from anybody on comments. I know it was a little long, but I really enjoy editing and filming. I've just never really had a reason to do it, so I decided to put this video together. I really enjoyed the process though, so hopefully I can make more. Have a good one.